Shoutout, Sniper T on the beat.
Tamara to the break of dawn is on the rise, with life on the forefront of the mind. So line for line, you can ride this brain train and you can change your station without even touching the dial. So relax, stay a little bit, but listen for a while. And whether you're bumping this in the whip or in a business fit, it's a meeting you won't want to miss. A meeting for a meal to feed the soul with words for the mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Time to take off, it's time to fly. Cause Tamara till the break of dawn is on the rise.
Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to the show. And if you're new, I don't know how you found this show, but I thank you so much for checking me out, and I hope you like what you hear and you come back or whatever. So new episodes drop every Thursday. I know this episode didn't drop on a Thursday, so I'd sprinkle bonus episodes here and there for a little razzle dazzle. But for my day one listeners, man, I'm loving the support. I'm loving that y'all keep rocking with me. I'm loving the feedback that y'all give me. So if you're not following me on social media, you definitely should be. And the link to my Twitter and Instagram are in the episode notes. But hear me when I say, I don't say follow me on social media because I just want a bunch of followers. Because to be honest, I could care less about that unless you actually want to interact with me and want to rock with me. So, let's chop it up. Let's talk about an episode. Let's talk about whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's not no weird stuff. Because when I say weird stuff, let me clarify that. Like, don't come at me on no, like, I'm trying to get with you or whatever, because I'm not on that. But if you want to chop it up, just have conversation, cool. And then let's say this. Let's say you are coming on some I want to get with you. Be straight up about it. Don't come at me weird. So when I say that weird stuff, if you've listened to previous episodes, I've had some weird stuff on social media. Anywho, since this episode is a little bit different, as you can tell by the title or whatever, I'm gonna go ahead and do the weekly podcast shout out up front. I didn't really want to do all this stuff as part of the episode because it was a heavy topic, and to be honest, I kind of had anxiety leading up to it because I've never done a grief journal episode with anyone. So weekly podcast shout out this week is FoGetDatYo podcast. They're a regular in my rotation, hilarious, but they just talk about so many different topics within one episode, but it's super engaging, keeps my attention. So you should definitely check them out. The link to their show is in the episode notes. And if you haven't already, which shout out to the people who already have got some merch from me. I appreciate y'all. Get you some merch. Like, here's the thing. Okay, sure. If you want to get my podcast logo, I ain't gonna be mad at you. Like, if you want to be rocking a Tamara till the break of dawn something, I feel you. But there are other designs. If you're a podcaster, if you're a content creator, if you're a dope person, one of my poems I wrote is on there. Like, there's a bunch of different designs that I'm trying to encourage. I'm trying to inspire you, all that good stuff. So go ahead and check out some merch. The link to that is in the episode notes as well. This episode it's just what it's called. We talk about grief. Mike from Off the Record podcast and Baylor from BTG for President, and I think his other show is called Open Run with BTG. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but I'm fortunate enough to be cool with them. And I say that because this topic is heavy and I have to talk about stuff like that with people I'm comfortable with. So I'm glad that they are just authentic dudes that I've met in this industry, and I appreciate them for just sharing their experience with me. I learned a lot from them. I know y'all gonna get something from the conversation too, because we've all struggled with grief, even if it's grieving a toxic relationship. Now we're actually, talking about death, but when relationships end, there's a grieving process with that too. So the stuff that we talk about and the advice that they give is stuff that could be used for all types of grief. But I have gone on and on enough without it even being the real episode. So I'm going to go ahead and let y'all get to it. All right, fellas. How y'all doing today?
We don't cry in the car.
Yeah. But I like I said in our little I don't even know, Twitter group, like I really appreciate this. I take it as like an honor because you don't have to like share this with me and my listeners and all that good stuff. And a lot of what brought this on is my youngest daughter's birthday is it's actually Halloween. So like with milestones and stuff, that always, you know, triggers emotions and triggers and highlights the fact that their dad isn't here. It makes me sad because she always says she hates October, which like it's the complete opposite of how I am about my birthday month, but she really hates anything that's like supposed to be good because for her, I guess it seems like it highlights how much he's not here, you know, to celebrate with her. So she doesn't like Valentine's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, none of that. And a lot of why I asked y'all specifically to do this, because I mean, I know other people that have lost people that might have done it, but you know, you and Mike both lost, I mean, both y'all parents. And so it's like y'all relate to what my daughter's feeling. And so it just made me feel like if I cry on here, which I'm going to try not to, you know, I don't know. But I guess I'll start by asking like how long has it been since y'all parents passed? And how did they pass away? And who passed first?
So for me, it's been since 2014. And my dad passed first. And then my mom passed 8 months later. My dad had cancer, prostate cancer, but his death was still kind of unexpected. And then my mom was suffering from dementia and stuff like that. So that's ultimately what took her out.
I lost my mom in 2008 and then my dad in 2011. And they both, which was crazy because they wasn't, I've never seen my dad drink alcohol. My mom was more of a, you know, if she went out or something like that, would drink. But they died, they passed away from liver and kidney failure. And once, you know, one of those two go, it's an uphill battle. So yeah.
So that's wow. So like even though I mean, it's unexpected either way, you know what I mean? Like you never really prepared for that, but where they like battled that for a while. For my new listeners, because a lot of my regulars already know, my ex-husband, which we have been divorced, we have been friends. Okay, so I met him when I was like 17. Our moms were friends. They went to the same, like we all went to the same church. I met his older brother first, and he and I were just friends for years. Like my son is not by him. My son technically actually is by somebody that was his homeboy, but I knew him first. So in my mind, I don't know, whatever, that's a different story. But so it wasn't until though right before I turned 21 is when we started making that cross from friends to messing around, then to being in a relationship. I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, and then when I was like 20, then when I was 25, we got married. Why? I don't know, and that'll be something I'll talk about on another episode. But then we divorced in 2007, and so then you do the whole co-parenting and all that stuff, and then it was rough for at first because we did not have a healthy relationship at all. That's why we got divorced. And then in 2015, it's crazy because his sister died in April in a car accident. And what that caused is we ended up having a whole bunch of conversation about different stuff, kind of like making peace with the past. Like he ended up actually staying with me for a couple weeks and all this stuff. And then what I remember is I remember us talking and him saying like, I feel like I'm about to go next. I feel like my spirit is leaving my body, and I'm like, dude, you tripping. Like, I didn't say it like that, but I'm just like, you probably just feel that way because she left so unexpectedly. And then a couple months later, I got the call that he had been shot. And the crazy thing about it is he wasn't out here like that. It was really just being with the wrong person at the wrong time. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like the dude, because this is public knowledge, the dude he was with was, he probably still sells weed, but he was selling weed to some teenagers. They were 12, 15, and 17 at the time. And I have an issue with that because I'm like, why would you sell to some kids in the first place? But
Right.
but the stupid thing from what I understand is that he had like not beef with these kids, but like they had tried to rob him before. So why would you then go? Money ain't that serious. Like I wouldn't want nothing to do with you after that. And they was trying to, I guess it was like a robbery gone wrong. And here we are. So I got the call that he was shot, but I'm thinking he's gonna survive. You know what I mean? And I'm go to the hospital, and he was already gone. Really, before I got the call. So the aftermath of all that it's been a lot, and I've talked about all that on here. But the biggest reason why I've brought y'all on for this particular grief episode is because milestones are always triggers for my family. Like, Kayliana, that's my oldest daughter. She graduated from high school this year and he wasn't there. You know what I mean? She's in college. She got a scholarship, full ride scholarship, and he don't get to celebrate that. And y'all know what that's like, even longer than me. I didn't realize it had been that long since both y'all parents passed. So how do y'all like, because Mike, you just had your first kid a little over a year ago. Like, how do y'all just how? How?
Well, for one thing, to touch on what you said about milestones, like it seemed like it's a milestone after you lose somebody. after you lose somebody, it seems like there's a milestone all the time, right? So it's just crazy because you don't really pay attention to that until that person is gone. But it seemed like there's constant triggers from birthdays to holidays to, you know, like you said, the person I'm trying to keep quiet, my son. So I don't know, man. I just try to stay positive. You know what I mean? I just try to keep him knowledgeable of who his grandparents was. But that was the hardest thing for me, man. Like, knowing before my son was born, and even when, you know, when he was conceived, the hardest thing for me was like, yo, he's gonna be born and my parents not gonna see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they witnessed all my other siblings have kids, but their baby boy they didn't get to see. So it still bothers me. That's still tough for me. But what's gotten me through all these years is just like, you know, I just keep telling myself it's no more pain, no more suffering for them. So, you know, I'd rather them be, you know, with God and healthy than down here with me suffering just for, you know, for me to be happy because you're here in the physical. You know, I'd much rather it be the opposite. I can handle that. You know what I mean? And that's honestly what's gotten me through all these years, man, is just thinking of it that way. That's what got me through in the beginning when it happened. It's just like, all right, you know, were they healthy again? You know what I mean? I can handle being here and then being up there healthy. So that's what it was for me.
Baylor.
Yo, man, I just raised my family. You know, like you ain't gonna never get over it. You know, when people be like, this is the one thing that bothers me about funerals. When they tell you it's gonna be all right, right? Knowing damn well it's never gonna be all right.
Right.
You know? And it's like it's not you're gonna be okay or eventually be okay. It's more like you're gonna learn how to cope with it gradually. You know what I mean? Some faster than others. But no, man, as much as you achieve in life, that pain's still there. You know what I mean? So they not there to celebrate it with you or to pat you on the back. None of that. You know? But on the flip side, and in our culture, we do this a lot, and we do a great job at doing it. We honor the fallen. You know what I mean? So whether it's, you know, my daughter has two middle names, and is after my mother, and my wife's sister, who passed away. You know, so that's how we honor. You know, that's basically how we honor the dead. You know, you look at Nip. You know, we gave him he got a whole block named after him. You know what I mean, and a statue on the way. You look at Kobe. There's nowhere you can go in this city without seeing a mural. You know what I mean? So this is what we do. And I think if there's anything that needs to be done to help you with that, is just honor their name. Period. Because you ain't gonna never get over it. That's the most painful shit in the world. Especially when you're going through it. I think the pain is more when you're going through it than when you achieve something. Because depending on the relationship, you will go to that person for help.
See, yeah. And like I said, we and it's a little different for me because obviously this is not my parent. This is my daughter's dad. But it's like we were like, that's why I gave the background information of how long I've known this dude, because there are a lot of memories that I have prior to our relationship. So prior to, and it's not like the whole relationship was bad, you know what I mean? But there's just a lot of my life that he was a part of in some way or form, because how I met him was through his other older brother, because he was dating my homegirl, and then we just all became cool, and I just got introduced to a lot of their friends and stuff. But the part about when you going through it, especially with how Janae, and I'm not saying Kayliana doesn't care, because she does, and she honored her dad she just got, man, she going crazy with the tattoos now that she turned 18, but her first tattoo that she got was like a dove and a flower and his birth date and something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but dates. And then she's talking about getting his face and all this stuff.
You gotta let it happen too.
Oh yeah, like
you gotta let it happen, because you can't dictate how somebody deal with it. You know what I mean? And then that's just one of the many ways, is that artistic side. Like you never want to be too far away from them, whatever it was. So whatever we can do, if it's just writing a damn name on our skin, it's gotta happen. You know what I mean? All the way to the point where we naming scholarships or something like that after them. Like you gonna keep that name alive some way, somehow.
Yeah, I remember they was doing I forget what challenge it was, where they were like having people the So Gone challenge, when people were like remixing that beat to whatever. And I remember I used to get into rap a little bit back in the day, so I remember I wrote a rap and like actually recorded it and put it on Facebook in my own way to, you know what I mean, kind of like keep his memory alive. But I don't want to. But when one of y'all said, it was you during the hard times, when Janae is, man, when Janae is struggling, I feel like that's, and really anything. It's weird because we were not together, so I can't even say that was just fully like my support system like that. You know what I mean? But I think because his death makes everything that much heavier, that when we're going through it and stuff that I deal with as far as being a parent and having to like for real do it by myself, especially the way she has grieved and just really struggled, I feel like that's one time when I feel it more. But milestone,
that balance is not there. That's why.
Yeah, like, because the thing about how he was always the nicer one, as they say it. But I mean, he's a dad and they're girls, so girls always got their daddies wrapped around their finger. Like my stepdad that raised me, I literally text him and my mom on International Podcast Day, and I was like, hey, it's International Podcast Day, what y'all gonna give me as a gift? And my dad sent me $20. But my mom was like, girl, you always trying to get a gift, you know what I mean? So it's just gonna be different. But there was a balance, you know what I'm saying? Like the things that I focus on versus the stuff and the lessons that I didn't even know he taught them. It's just me now. And and he's just missing, I don't know, he's just missing out on a lot. But how did y'all, because okay, how old was, so your daughter wouldn't have been born yet, but your son would have been born, right, Baylor? Or was he alive? I don't know how old your son is. I figure your daughter's young though, based on the pictures that I see.
Well, my oldest was born in 2003, right?
Okay.
And then my first daughter was born in 2009. So she actually got to see a picture of my daughter while she was in the hospital, right? So she passed away. She actually passed away a month after my daughter was born. And then my stepson was born in 2006, but me and my wife didn't get together until after my mom passed away. Oh. So she never got to meet him, or she never got to meet Baylor.
Yeah, that's another tough thing for me, because like my lady didn't get to meet either of my parents. So it's I don't know, man. It's tough. But to go back to what you were saying, Tam, especially about your daughter, I couldn't imagine being in your situation or even being in her situation. I think part of the thing that makes it hard is you, in a sense, can maybe not control your feelings, but you can suppress them. You know how you feeling, but you don't know how somebody at her age is feeling going through that. And that was one thing that put it in perspective for me. You know, I work around kids and stuff. So, you know, after my dad passed, you know, I was out for a while, come back to work, and it's a kid that's like, I think he was in like 3rd grade. I'm chilling in my office, and he comes into my office and he's like, Mr. Mike, you know, sorry to hear about your dad. And I'm like, yeah, man, thanks. I appreciate that. And he was like, I know how you feel. And I was like, you do? And he was like, yeah, you know, my mom died when I was 1 and my dad left me.
That's
And I
crazy.
was just like, and here's a kid that's 7, 8, you know, and I'm just like, damn, like it just put it in perspective for me, because I'm like, yo, here I am feeling down, feeling like the world against me. I'm feeling like everybody should understand or feel sorry for me. And here's someone that's 7 that had to endure what I did at 32.
Yeah.
So it was just like, so it's just, you know, it always put it in perspective for me, especially dealing with kids. And I think that's how me and you connected too, Tam, because I think you was listening to one of our episodes and I mentioned the passing of my mom or dad, and you said your daughter walked in while you were doing that part.
Yep.
And she was just like, I know how he feels.
Yep.
And it's just crazy, man. I couldn't imagine being of their age and going through something like that, you know?
I remember right after he passed, because up until recently, I've always, I mean, from like 26 until this year is when I finally am like, okay, I'm not doing youth ministry anymore. So that was basically 14 years of either professionally or volunteering. I've been around teenagers. And I remember right after he was killed, because it was so public, because the youngest, I told you the kids were 12, 15, and 17. The youngest went on the run and like fled to Minnesota or Michigan or something. So it was like very public here. And then a lot of the kids that I worked with like knew these kids. And then what's crazy is when I did gang intervention, the older two, you know, they did jail time. So like the good thing is that they were caught and, you know, they're serving time for their crime or whatever, because you know that does not always happen. But the youngest, because he was so young, he just got sent to Boys Town. And so then when I was doing gang intervention, you just become a part of that world of hearing about different people, whether they're your client or not, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it was weird because he was a part of the world that I was working in. But I remember this little like 12-year-old girl, she was like, you know, I'm sorry to hear about, like, the kids wrote me cards and stuff. And because I took the next day off, you know, but then I just went back to work because I got to stay busy to not just sit and think. But she was like, yeah, my mom, she died, and I forget why she couldn't stay with her dad, so she was gonna have to go to foster care. And then I just became like, damn, I'm glad at least my daughters have me, because at least they've always lived with me. Like, they'll go visit their dad and spend time at his house, but they've always lived with me. So it didn't have to be this whole thing of, okay, now where you gonna live, in addition to, you know what I mean, just grieving. So I guess because I thought for some reason, Baylor, I thought you've been with your wife, I guess, longer than that. But I guess if I think about it, 2008, I would have been 28, and you're younger than me. So I guess that makes sense that maybe it ain't been as long as I thought. I don't know. But still, as parents, I guess we'll switch hats. And Mike, I know you just had your first, like, your son, but you got stepkids, so you still been a daddy, or stepdad or whatever, So how do y'all balance your grief when you in? Because I know you have them like, man. I just remember there were days where I didn't even want to get out of bed. Like, I'll go to work late or call in, and man, thank God my job was very understanding of, what I was going through. But the weekends come and I'm just in bed, or I'm just trying to numb my pain, and I'm just focused, like trying to focus on my kids. But at the same time, I'm hurting. So how do y'all balance that, like, as parents, as fathers, especially? Because I feel like men and women are different when it comes to stuff like that.
I still struggle with it to this day. For example, this past Mother's Day, right? So Mother's Day has become a trigger for me. And the thing about, like, triggers, like, and I try to explain this to my fiance, like, it's not, I can't guarantee how I'm gonna feel on each milestone, each holiday, each anniversary. I can't guarantee how I'm gonna feel, right? And I try to get her to understand, like, it's one of those things that you wake up and that's how you know how you're gonna feel for that day, right? But I've come to realize that, especially this past Mother's Day, that Mother's Day is one of those consistent triggers for me, right? So the last two have been really bad for me. And I was holding on to going into this past one, like, all right, you know what? Last year was bad. This year probably ain't going to be that bad. But it was bad. It was bad. And, I ain't want to do nothing. I laid around all day. And I totally, forgot. I didn't forget, but I just kind of neglected the fact that it was her day as well. My fiance's day. So, we had to have a conversation about that. And I had to, she explained to me how she felt, but she understood how I feel on that day. But at the same time, I understand how she felt. And her thing is like, well, maybe, we could figure out a way to honor her, like Baylor was saying, or celebrate her on that day or whatever, or do something that she would do on that day or whatever. And I'm like, man, we could try, but I just can't guarantee how I'm gonna feel. But I know that I have to do better on things like that, because you deserve to be celebrated as well. So when you're a father, as a father, period, as a parent, period, you tend to put your shit, you tend to put your shit and your feelings to the side, period, anyway, right? For the betterment of your family. So, I realized though that I got to do better on certain things, even my birthday. So, my dad actually passed on my birthday. So when my birthday comes, everybody want to celebrate me, and naturally it's my birthday, right?
Right.
But it's, I got to learn too on that day to allow people to celebrate me, right? Because that's a day, some days I wake up and feel great on my birthday. I'm ready to party. I'm ready to do it up. And then other days, other years, I'm like, yo, I don't want to talk to nobody. So I realized that, being a father and a husband basically is that I have to find that balance, but it's tough. It's tough. And I'm sure Baylor can contest to that. Like, it's just something that you constantly working on, because you just don't know how you gonna feel on that day until you actually wake up.
Yeah.
Before you go, Baylor, I didn't realize he passed on your birthday. Like, because my birthday is a huge trigger for me, because their dad passed 2 days after my birthday. And then Father's Day is actually the last time that we saw him. So his last words to us, I remember that whole scene, and it's crazy because where he lived it's not that far from my mom's house. So like, and it's on the way to when I get my nails done, because it's in the hood, and it's on the way to when I get my hair done, because I live like in a suburb of, the inner city in my area. So every time we go past there, because we all get our nails done by the same person and we all get our hair done by the same person, and my mom. But I remember I picked the girls up because they had spent Father's Day with him, and he was like, I love y'all, because he would always still tell me he loved me, and he was like, I'm gonna see y'all later. And then a week and a day later, I got the call, or something like that. Yeah. Because Father's Day was the 21st that year, or the 20 something. So then my birthday is the 27th. So June is just, it's always a trash month for us. Like, this was the first year that I was kind of like, it's my 40th. I refuse. It's Rona. Like, I refuse to have a bad day on my birthday this year. And my coworker actually got married, so that forced me to like celebrate. But I never know how I'm gonna feel leading up to June, really. But then it'd be the stuff where it's like, you don't think anything's gonna happen, and you just, a song or a smell or a,
those songs is the killer. Turn the radio off, man. God damn.
Yeah.
And because Lovers and Friends, that was that was our song, and I remember that popped in my head, and I just got in my feelings, because it's like, when people pass, you forget about. I mean, but we had squashed everything, so I'm glad we had that conversation, so he could know, because I was already have forgiven him. You know what I mean? I wasn't angry anymore, but yeah. So Baylor, how do you just keep being a dad? Because both of y'all, what I appreciate about both of y'all is just how into family I could tell y'all are. Baylor, you talk about it a lot. That's pretty much all you talk about is your wife and your kids, and so how do you still be a good dad, still do all that despite what you're going through?
It's honestly, man, I'm telling you the truth, it's my ego. You know what I mean? It's the male ego. I can't allow myself not to, like, I'm scared to fail. And I know if I sit there and lay in the bed too long, it can become a habit. And if it becomes a habit, it'll take me, I won't stay focused. And my main goal is to take care of my family, right? And it's just building memories, like it was a lot of celebrity deaths that happened, and it just put more and more perspective. Like you just got to go out there and just live. You know it's going to happen. You just don't know when. So go out there and have fun. And that's with the family and without the family. So like if you see me on Twitter, I got a ski mask on. look, I only got one life to live. I don't know if I'll be able to wear ski mask in my next life. So I'm about to wear it right now. You know what I mean? I gotta have fun, man. Like, because you know for a fact, you know how it feels when you laugh, one of those good laughs, and you just feel good when you have a great time. And that's one drug that I go after. I try to laugh a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because look at the world we live in. You know what I mean? And if we keep getting distracted by all this bullshit around us down, that doesn't mean ignore it. I don't ignore it. I know what's going on, but I can't let it take over my feelings because I'm already dealing with past pain. So if I deal with all this present shit, I'm gonna be depressed. You know, and that's why I didn't understand it at first. But you know, when my mom passed away, they did put this whole, I don't know who started this rumor, but they was like, yo, make sure y'all keep some eyes on Ronnie. Like, I'm on like this suicide watch. And I'm like, look, I know I love my mama, but I'm not about to off myself. You know what I mean?
I went through that too, yo.
Yeah,
I went through that too.
But it also shows how much they knew you loved your parents.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, it's like I gotta stay focused. I got to. Now, I've been at work before, cried in the bathroom. I've cried in this car plenty of times. And then there's times where I have to call people crying. I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? But outside of that, I keep it bottled in a safe way. What that means is I don't sit up here having a pity party, but it will build up to where that should have just come out. It just looked like I'm just having the worst life ever in one day. But I'll get it out, I'll reflect, and then I get back to my job. You know, because if I'm going, all that shit is on my wife. You know what I'm saying? You can speak for that, even though, you know, y'all wasn't together, it's still on you. I don't care if y'all if y'all didn't get along or y'all did get along and y'all was separate, it doesn't matter. Y'all still a teammate because of the kids.
Yep.
And so I don't understand your daughter's pain because of how young she was, but I do know that without her even knowing at that moment, you guys are, and shameless plug, I have an episode called The Safety Blanket, or the safety net. And that is because she can fall back on you. You know what I mean? And when you have both of your parents, and when you're having one of those just messed up days or messed up weeks, you can always go back to your parents and they have the answers. And that's what makes it hard about life, is that no matter how old you get, your parents will always have the answers because they already been through it. So when they don't have that safety net, then they have to figure it out, but it's not fair. That's the thing about it. And that's probably what she's going through, is like, that's not fair. When she goes to school, it's a father's daughter's dance, and she's not able to have an authentic father's daughter dance. That's not fair. So you gotta let her. She gotta feel that, and then in return, like, she'll be a stronger person because of it. And the only advice that I would have for her is that just keep going. Just keep going. The older you get, the more wiser you'll get, but the pain will always be there. You'll just know how to treat it from time to time.
Yeah. And it's crazy how differently they grieve. Like, Janae she's a lot more like me, very deeply feels everything, a lot, outwardly expressive and all. She writes and all these things. Kayliana's more logical. So I remember she was like, I'm sad. Like, when she was younger, she was like, I'm sad, but kind of like, she's just not an outwardly emotional child like that. But so it's kind of like what I'm realizing as they're getting older is that so much of my focus has been on Janae because she's been the more extreme one. I mean, she was cutting. She was at this I don't want to live anymore, just angry, and I never understood it because Kayliana was the daddy's girl. Like Janae was always about me. But when he died, she acted like I did it. You know what I mean? Like she didn't want nothing to do with me. But what she told me recently was that she felt like, well, I don't want to get close to you anymore because if you die, I'm not going to be able to handle that. So I'll rather just push you away because she was angry that he left her. And it wasn't until she decided to let that anger go, literally just this year, that we started being able to have a relationship again.
Yeah. Hey, they got to go through that. At the same time, she'll know that she'll understand it when she gets older. We all do. You know what I mean? Like now, you know, I understand why my mom got mad because I didn't wash those dishes. I understand completely. You know what I mean? And like, you know, like some of it just takes time, man. It just takes time. And then, you know, it's hard for a single parent because now you have to balance all those different personalities. You know what I mean? Like I've always said that the Ninja Turtles was a lesson that we didn't really understand. Those were 4 different personalities under one person. You know what I mean? And he had to make sure all those 4 personalities was on the same page. You know what I mean? And that's what you got to do is like, speaking of the dads are cool. Don't get me wrong. Like we dope. Mike, you dope. I know you know, look, you dope. But them moms, bro, y'all build, y'all have this superpower that I'm jealous of. You know, and that superpower is called nurturing.
Yes.
We ain't got that. We got calm down. And sometimes we can be more logical than women. You know what I mean? But that nurturing feeling, oh my God, let me get some. Let me get a little bit. Because it's something about my wife got it. And I'll be rubbing it on, you know, I'll get a little bit. When I feel bad, I just lay up against her. And that energy.
Hey, you just helped me understand. My daughters will, because, you know, I'm working from home and have been almost 6 months. And they'll just come sit in my room and just sit in here. And I'm just like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, but I've tried to get better at like giving them individual time because it is hard as a single parent to try to be intentional. And so now what I do is, all right, Janae, let's go to dinner, or so it started because Kayliana took me to dinner and we talked and she asked me how my day, she told me, put your phone away, and was asking me about my day and stuff. And it just made me realize that we don't really get one-on-one time like that because we're always just all together. And I've noticed that ever since I've started doing that, I mean, Janae is still a teenager, but it just seems like it's softened her a little bit.
It's like charging a battery.
Yeah.
It's real. It's real, man. It's real. It's like, I go back to like when my son was born, right? And, you know, my first child, and of course, you know, he'd been in his mom's womb for umpteen months. You know, she's his source of food. And for the longest, I would be in my feelings when he would have those crying fits and I couldn't calm him down. And I didn't understand, like, yo, why can't I calm him down? As soon as I hand him to her, he good. And you know, she had to, like, I literally would, like, it was times I would cry off of that shit. And like, you know, like Baylor said, you know, it was a conversation sitting there talking to her. And yo, she broke the shit down to me in 5 minutes. And she was just like, yo, I'm his source of food. You know, I'm that, I nurture him. I'm all of that in one. He's been a part of my body. So, you know, it's just that, but you gonna have that time where he's up your ass, like now.
Yeah.
And it just put it in perspective, like that power, like that, like Baylor said, like that moms have, yo. It's just like, and then it took me to a little boy. Like me and my dad was aces. But when I'm feeling a certain way, the only person I wanted to be around was my mom. And it's just like, it's a powerful thing, man. It's a powerful thing.
There's a reason why when they're born, they gotta get that skin contact.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But when they get older, and it hits you at any moment. It could be when they 3, 4, 5. When they start to understand stuff a little bit more, you're gonna see your son wake up one morning and he gonna dress exactly like you. And it's gonna blow your mind. You know what I mean? And you're gonna be like, it's a little me walking out the door right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get the reward. You know what I'm saying? When you go, Dad, I need you to come to school, you know, and you need to tell them about where you work at. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or when you playing in an adult league or something like that, I want to go see Dad play. And it's a school night, but your game don't start until 9:00. Yeah, it's gonna come back. It's just that moms, they got it. They just got it. And I bow down to it.
I think that's what though makes it hard with this, because usually anything else that they go through, I can advise, I can whatever, I can try to make it better. But with this, it's like I can't do nothing about it. And even for me, man, I've walked through a lot in life. And this was the first thing that it's like, damn, I can't escape this. Like, I never know when or how I'm gonna feel or what's gonna trigger me, or I mean, and then there's also the balance of sometimes feeling guilty about celebrating and feeling happy, because feeling like, well, should I really, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, should I really be this happy? Because is it not, am I dishonoring him? Because it's not like he will want me to walk around whatever, but it's almost like, I don't know, I can't even explain it. Just a guilt with feeling happy or feeling good about something, like I should just be walking around sad.
But that comes with time though, and that's something that, like you just said, there's nothing you can do about it. Is at a certain point they have to learn that, because I've never felt guilty of having fun with my in-laws. You know what I mean? I just never did, because at the end of the day, I know who my mom is. I know who my dad is. You know, so it's time, and it's dealing with the pain the best way you can within that time. And if you want to make yourself feel better, go honor them by doing something. Just go do it, wherever it is. And mine was as simple as, my daughter is Bailey Deborah Danielle Taylor. She has the name that I wanted for her first name. She has my mom's name in there. She has my wife's sister name in there, and she has my last name. That's all I need. That's all I need. My legacy will live on. My stepson, the only reason why I'm calling him my stepson is because it is a part of the story. So when certain things don't add up, is because he is my stepson. At the end of the day, he's under my roof. That's my son. Yeah. You know what I mean? So no matter now, he doesn't have my last name yet. Keyword yet. But that's only because I do he gonna get my last name. You know what I mean? He's going to be a Taylor as well, and my legacy will live on through him as well. And even my wife, this is the respect that I have for my in-laws. I allow her to keep her last name to add on because I know how important it is to be attached to that last name, not just because of her father, but because of the family that she's a part of. So she's just not Marcia Michelle Taylor. She's Marcia Michelle Fenton Taylor. That last name means something. So you gotta, whatever it is, hell, if you gotta go get a tattoo of initials or something like that, if you feel like that's gonna make you feel better and your daughter feel better, do it.
We are supposed to get not initials, but we feel like, you know, him dying and then, man, other stuff we went through. I mean, like, I was a homeowner and my house foreclosed, and so it's like we were never like on the street, but we had to go live with my mom for a little bit. And one of my car, like, somebody hit my car. They didn't have insurance, so I was without a car for a while. Just, you know, different stuff that we've gone through, even financial struggles when I was doing gang intervention. That was wild because I wasn't getting paid. Like, it just always excuse me, was a delay or something. But we feel like it's finally not that, you know what I mean? And so we were talking about getting matching tattoos to kind of like show how we came through, you know, the last 5 years or whatever. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I will go here and then I'll go somewhere else and then I'll let y'all get on with y'all day, night, whatever. So earlier, Baylor, you said something, or one of y'all said something about how you cope with it. So what would you say? You can't really tell someone how to grieve. You can't really say, oh, you need to grieve this way. But what I've learned is I can measure when I'm grieving in an unhealthy way, with unhealthy coping skills. And I remember when he first died, like, I was even kind of reckless for a while, just as far as I just didn't want to feel pain. I just wanted to feel good. So, that meant engaging in, you know, I'll say entanglements just to bring that back around. But really it wasn't because I wasn't messing with nobody's man, but just doing whatever I felt like I wanted to do just so I didn't have to feel pain, because the pain felt unbearable. Sometimes unhealthy coping for me was not getting out of bed and just laying around. Sometimes it was not showering, or, you know what I mean? Just not caring about my self-care and stuff like that. So what would you say have been, because even with the, not really so much the not showering, but even with the wanting to lay around, like, I could tell when I'm down, when I don't want to get up in the morning. And that's kind of been a struggle this week, where if it wasn't end of month, which is a specific time at my job, I would have called in earlier this week because I just wanted to sleep all day. So it's like, what would you say have been some of the unhealthier ways that you've tried to numb your pain or whatever?
The unhealthier ways?
Yeah.
I think the only unhealthier way I went about it was keeping it inside. That was about it. You know what I mean? And I learned a long time ago that keeping it inside is eventually going to come out, because life is going to keep going, and then you'll have your ups and downs. And then, like I said, when you're really going through something and you looking for the answers and you only want to talk to a certain person and they're not there, then that's when it all come out. I was in a grocery market. I said the grocery market, the grocery store. Same difference. And I was crying and didn't know it until somebody asked me what was wrong with me. And that was a problem. That was a problem to me. And I remember because I was listening to somebody's episode, they was talking about anxiety and stuff like that. And I never really had anxiety attacks until up until like a couple of years ago. And that's when I realized that I was bottling shit up and trying to handle it my way. And then when life smacked me one day, I was crying in the car, got out, went to the supermarket, and it must have looked that bad. And they asked me, "Yo, you good? you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like why?" And then looking at myself, eyes bloodshot red. You know how you had a little ashy tears and stuff like that. You've been crying so long. And then I was like, "Oh, okay," you know what I mean. And then it's times where I had to call my wife when I'm on the freeway, call my auntie, just crying, not even saying nothing, the ugly cry too, snotting shit like that. And that's just what it is. But I learned how to deal with it the healthy way. So and it's like the pain is still there, like you said, birthdays, holidays, songs, the smells and stuff like that, man, it comes from all angles. But the older you get and the more you start to learn about death, that helps, you know what I mean? Because when I found out about Chadwick, it was a sign of relief knowing that he passed away in front of his family. You know what I mean? That gave me something like, all right, I'm cool. But at the same time, like your story not gonna be written like his, because you don't know what's gonna happen. You just know that was as good as it could get. You know what I mean? If you know you going out and your family is surrounding you, I'll take that. But man, I just I try to stay as healthy in the mind as I can, and no lie, them edibles help. I'm not gonna lie to you, them edibles help a lot. Them edibles and podcasting helps. So if you see me on a late night mission tweeting some weird random shit, that's me getting it out. I'm honestly telling you that my demon hours, if you see me tweeting some way out abstract stuff, that's me venting. If I'm tweeting out a million tracks, that's me venting.
Yeah, podcasting has definitely been helpful. Yeah, Mike, what about you?
I would say the same as Baylor. Like, I held it in, and part of the reason I held it in is because, I had to, even though I'm the youngest in my family. Like, I was thrusted into a role of like the head of the family. Like, I had to keep everybody together. I had to keep everybody sane. So in the sense of doing that, I neglected my own sanity. You know what I mean? I even kind of neglected my own grieving to a certain point, trying to make sure everybody else was okay. And it all came to head like came to head kind of similar to Baylor, but it was Brandon that I'm on a podcast with. He was just like, yo, he just hit me and he was like, yo, I'm worried about you. And I was like, yo, I'm good, man. And he was like, nah, this ain't you. You know what I mean? And that's how on some episodes, like, I might have said like, yo, Brandon, we joke about it, but I tell him he saved my life. Because like he literally got me off my ass. You know what I mean? And it was like he just called, like he would call me every day for a stretch, like, yo, you good? Get up, go outside, do something, get out of the house. You know what I mean? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm taking care of business. You know what I mean? I'm keeping this family together. I'm keeping everything together. I'm taking, I'm just taking care of. I was in business mode. I wasn't in, worry about Mike in his mental mode. You know what I mean? But it took that for me to be like, all right, I gotta get my shit together. Like, I gotta snap out of this shit, and it's okay to speak on it, and it's okay to have these feelings. because it led to me also pushing people away, because I got to a point where I only trusted myself to handle anything. Like, it was so bad. Like, my lady could tell you, like, I wouldn't even allow her to make a plate for me of food because it got to that small of a level that I had just built up this wall where I only trusted myself to do everything for myself. Because, like Baylor said earlier, you got that safety net. Well, my safety net is gone. So I'm feeling like, if I slip or stumble just a little bit, I'm done. Because I don't have that answer. I don't have that person to go to get all the answers. And again, that was, as Baylor says, scripture. That was scripture, because my dad had every fucking answer. I don't know how he did it to this day. I don't know how, but I could go to him with anything and he could point me the way to get the answer that I needed. So it scared me when that left me. But it all led to me, I bowed it in and I bunkered down, and I'm like, all right, you take care of you. You know what I mean? You handle everything. Because you taking care of everybody else. But as far as letting anybody inside that wall, no, you only trust yourself at this point. So it was that, I would say that was some of the unhealthy habits that, I adopted during that time. But it was Brandon and a few other people that kind of got me off my ass and was like, yo, this ain't you, man. It ain't healthy.
It's crazy because for me, I had people that would be there when I was deep in grief, that like they either understood or they just wanted to support or whatever. But then I can't say I really had, I think I just got tired of not feeling like I was on top of my stuff. You know what I mean? Because I've always, like I said before this, I've walked through I'm the strong friend. You know what I mean? I am not I really go to people for stuff. Usually people come to me. Or usually if I go to somebody for something, but if they start talking about what they're going through, which is a lot of times what happens, then I just forget about what I'm, on, because I just always, but it got to a point where I couldn't be there for anybody and I didn't want to. And I didn't feel guilty about it. That's when I started realizing, okay, you gotta focus on you. You gotta be healthy. You gotta actually feel these emotions. And even though it hurts, it's okay to feel pain and stop trying to numb your pain, because for me, like, I need to feel. I either feel deeply or I don't feel at all. And I spent most of my life numbing different pains and wounds and whatever. And so then when it got to this, it's like, then you just start feeling everything. And at first I was kind of like, what the hell? Like, am I good? Am I normal? Is this whatever? But I learned a lot about that from my daughter, because she's always been very in tune, not only just in tune with her emotions, but very okay with her emotions. Like, this is how I feel and that's just what it is. And it ultimately helped me to realize it's okay to not be okay, because I've always felt like I had to be okay. But then it helped me to be okay with not being okay. But then also, because I'm allowing myself that, then there's the balance of, okay, but you could also be good too. And that's kind of like, I always start somewhere, and then when I'm trying to correct it, I overcorrect it, swing the pendulum way too far the other way, and then somehow I end up in the middle. And yeah, So, my last thing with this is, what encouragement would you offer to someone out there who's listening, who they've just dealing with grief? It don't got to be they lost their parents, because the thing that I've learned about grief, especially this year, like when Kobe died and Chadwick Boseman, people I didn't even know, but I shed tears when I found out they died, like they was my homies. And those are the I feel like those are the only celebrity deaths that hit me. But I think for Kobe, it's because, like, I remember when he got drafted into the NBA. I was in high school. I remember that. I remember when he was on Moesha, and I remember when him and Brandy went to prom together.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so he's always been there.
We saw his growth. We saw his
Yeah.
growth. We saw him go from we saw him go from a cocky teenager all the way to a father. You know what I mean?
Like, we grew up together basically, because he's only like, I think, a year or two older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So we grew up together. I mean, you know, that ain't my homie for real, but shoot, he's always been there. So I think that was the thing with him, is just like, whoa, like, you just don't expect anything like that to ever happen, ever. Mm-hmm. But with Chadwick, the thing that what I learned about his life since he's passed, and it's made me be even more intentional with my platform, is just how people talked about the types of roles he took. Like, I understand, I guess he started in theater, but the movies that he chose to be a part of outside of Black Panther, but even including Black Panther, were like specific types of roles. Like, I mean, okay, look at what he gave us with Black Panther, or him doing Jackie Robinson, or, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't just do the typical, oh, I'm gonna be this whatever role that they want to try to have for Black people. He did, I don't want to say epic roles, but kind of. It's like it seems like he was intentional about what's going to be tied to his legacy.
It was a double impact, because we as Black people have always been looking, especially in our age bracket, we've been looking for that Black leader, right? Mm-hmm. For me personally, early on, it was Pac. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Then after that, I really didn't have a leader to look up to. Then along came Nipsey. That is years of, that's a huge gap right there, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we look for that leadership role, and we had got that in Kobe, and we had got that in Nip, and we had got that in Chadwick, and he also played heroic, you know, characters on top of that. Yeah. So not only did we lose the actor, but we also lost those characters that he played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just made me, like, with my platform, and I've always been legacy minded, and that started because someone died, and I didn't know him, but I knew a lot of people that knew him. Like, he was close friends with a lot of my close friends, and I had met him once, but I didn't know him. So I volunteered to, like, serve the food at his repast or whatever. And just hearing the things that his family and friends said about him in his passing made me, that was the first time, and that was like 2005, 2006, that I'm like, man, when I die, I want to make sure that people have good things to say about me, like that my experience in their life left a positive impact, not like, oh, they'll miss me, but that it's like I left my mark. And that's why I am the way I am. And like, this is just how I am. You know what I mean? I don't hop on Twitter and just, oh, let me be supportive, because no, that's just how I am. But it made me want to be more intentional with my platform, even that much more, because it's like, this is my legacy I'm leaving behind. Just because I die doesn't mean that somebody can't find my podcast and start listening and be like, dang, I wonder what happened to her, or you know what I mean? So I want to leave something behind that's good, that's timeless, that years from now, when we're dead and gone, hopefully podcasting is still around because you know how things go, but they might need to hear this grief episode and have some sort of hope, which is a great segue back to what would y'all offer as encouragement for just whoever's out there listening?
Man, I say allow, so what happens to me now? And I mean, I really don't have a problem with it, but you know, people that's our age bracket are starting to lose parents and grandparents and loved ones. So I become that person that they come to talk to, you know, and I don't have no problem with that. You know what I mean? If I can help anybody, I will. But I always tell them, first thing I tell them is like, yo, allow yourself time to grieve. Find it, however you may find it. If you got to lock yourself in a room and cry it out, like Baylor said, if you got to sit in your car and cry it out, give yourself that time, because trust me, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks somewhere later down the line if you hold on to it. So I always start with that. Allow yourself time to grieve. And I feel like, you know, for the most part, everything else will fall in the line from there. But I tell people to also be realistic with your feelings. You know, if you are hurting to that point where you're thinking about doing something that you typically would not do, be realistic with that. You know what I mean? Go get help. Go speak to somebody. You know, do what you got to do. But it's you know, it's a traumatic situation, and the best part, and the best idea of that is just to realize that it's that. You know what I mean? And that you don't have to take it on your shoulders, because we men, like, typically, it's like, for me, like I said, it was new for me. 32 years old. I tell people all the time, I didn't become a man until I turned 32 years old. And that was the day that I had to make a decision on, you know, my dad being on a machine, and them telling me if we keep him there, we can't do nothing else for him, but we'll keep him there. But if he goes into cardiac arrest again, we won't do nothing. So at 32 years old, on my 32nd birthday, I had to make a decision that, to this day, I still didn't answer the doctor's question. He asked me what he wanted to do. I said, let me talk it over with my sisters. He left the room. You know, my sisters are like, yo, it's your birthday. And I'm like, you know, if we keep him on till tomorrow, it's still going to be associated with my birthday.
Right.
So I'm not going to take the chance of him having another heart attack or something like that just off the strength because it's my birthday. Doctor come back in, and he like, what you want to do? And all I could say to him was, I think you know what we want to do. But I couldn't say, you know what I mean? I still haven't said it. But me being the youngest, I was the next of kin to my mom, who couldn't make a decision because of her situation, and my dad. So it bypassed all my older siblings, and it went into that. And I had to make a tough decision like that. So I just say, man, just grieve. Allow yourself to grieve. Don't feel like because you're a man, you got to take it all on like a man. You got to stand up. You can't cry. You'll be weak if you cry. Don't do that. Take it from me. I did it. I even tried to walk in my dad's shoes for the first year or two. I tried to step into those shoes that and step into that role that he had within his family to keep everybody, you know, everybody else's spirits up. And I damn near broke my back trying to do that. And it took me to allow myself to grieve, to then realize that those shoes were too big for me. But it doesn't mean that I failed. You know, I'm gonna walk in my own shoes, and I'm gonna start my own legacy, but I'm gonna keep his legacy going while I'm walking in my own. Mm-hmm. So, you know, allow yourself time to grieve. Don't take on too much. You know, get help if you need it. And yeah, that would be my advice.
All right, so Mike said his piece. Baylor, what encouragement or advice would you offer to anybody out there in podcast land?
Play video games a lot. Not just one. That's one thing though. That's one thing though. No, it's actually three things. You gotta keep a good circle around you, right? That's for one. And then two, you gotta just understand from time to time you're gonna have some lows. And you know what I'm saying? Like you're just gonna have to go through that. And the third thing would probably be podcasting. You know what I mean? Share your pain, because it'll help you knowing that you might be helping somebody else. You know what I mean? So you know, like now you got to be able to be ready for that, because if you start getting emails or feedback about people's personal pains and stuff like that, you might not be equipped to deal with that. But just knowing that there's other people out here going through the same issues, they might have some stories to let you know that you can grasp onto how they're getting through it, and then go live your life. You know, there's so much things that you haven't been able to do yet. Just go try to do it. You know, the more you go out here and try to live, the more you'll be able to deal with it, I would say. And you have to have a supporting circle too.
I love the part about, even if it's not podcasting, but I'm just a firm believer that you should pour into others and you should try to be there for others, but it is important to know you're not alone. Like part of why I wanted to do this type of episode, which I'm not going to say who gave me the inspiration for this, because I know they listen, so they'll hear this. So shout out to you for somebody shared their pain with me. And that's what made me decide that I wanted my next grief episode to be with somebody else, so that, because it's like y'all helped me, and that's the guests that I choose. It's always, we already got rapport. There's already something that I feel like you could relate to what I want to talk about anyway. But I love the guest episodes because I could listen to it like I'm a listener when I'm listening to the episodes where there's guests. When it's just me, it's like, okay, I listen to it to make sure the audio's cool and it made sense or whatever. But when it's a guest, like, this is stuff I could come back to. So I just definitely, as I said, and I've said multiple times, I appreciate y'all coming on, because this is a heavy topic. And to us be all looking in each other's face on this StreamYard.
No, you seen me. During the episode, I look away.
I had to kind of close my eyes on several parts to hold back tears, because I really just, I don't know. I don't like to cry in front of people. Like, I'd rather cry when it's just me, bro, if I could help it. But yeah, I wouldn't even necessarily add on to anything. Y'all covered pretty much my encouragement. The only other thing I would say, as always, is take care of your mental health and your physical health, and self-care, emotional health, you know, all that good stuff, spiritual health. That's just important in general. But what I went to therapy for a little bit after the girl's dad died, and one of the things that I learned that he said is that when you are grieving, it's like your emotional capacity is always in a deficit. So it's like you already are negative, whatever. Then when you add regular stuff to, you know, regular traffic or little stuff, it's even that much worse. So you gotta take care of yourself, because you can't. And part of why I went to therapy is because my old boss, which I'm actually gonna have him as a guest on here in a little while, but super dope dude. But what he did was he allowed me to, like, I was calling in, he allowed that. And then it got to this point where he gently had a conversation with me and was like, this is the pattern that I've noticed, and this is my concerns. And it wasn't even a like, oh, you're getting a write-up or nothing like that. He was like, I've noticed that the 6-month mark, the 9, you know what I'm saying? He's like, I've noticed these. So this is my concern, because what's going to happen at the 18-month mark and the 2-year month mark and all that. And that's when, after that, I went to therapy, because if you noticing that I'm off track, who else notices? You know what I mean? Because you only see me at work. So that's that kind of like wake up call, almost kind of like you said, Brandon was like, oh, dang, I got to get myself together. And if I didn't have a solid, I mean, yeah, he was my boss, but the community of where I worked at that time, oh my gosh, like they helped serve in the funeral. Like, yeah, like it was where I needed to be for when that happened, because they were just super supportive. So that kind of ties into what Baylor said about having a support system and, have them people. So
sometimes you get support from people that you're not necessarily close to. So I tell people, I was like, yo, hit me up anytime. And that's the cool part about it. When people tell you that, they usually assume that they have the answer. I'm telling you right now, I do not have the answers.
Right.
But I will try to make you feel better.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to be understood. Like, I got a really good friend that his sister died about a little over a year after the girl's dad was killed. She had cancer, and her battle, she shared her journey with us. I've known her since high school. I've known him since junior high. So then I guess I've known her since junior high, because she's a grade below us. Anywho, but what I appreciate about him is he understands things that many people do not when it comes to my grieving. And so it's like I could have conversations with him and he gets it, and he wouldn't try to like say, oh, it'll be better. No, just let me be okay with grieving. And he would normalize what I was feeling instead of me feeling like I'm weird for feeling that way. So it's kind of like, it's important to have them people too that's going almost like be in the valley with you. But then it's important to have them people that's going to be like, okay, you might need to come up a little bit, at least out the water, get your head out the water because you're drowning. So it's important to have that too. Well, that's all we got for y'all. So yeah.
We made it through it. Hey, we did, Mike.
We did it, man.
Yep.
Ladies and gents, this concludes transmission. Tune in next time for a whole new edition. Another adventure and mission to share, be heard, and clarify the vision of this whole new world for